is actually this is going to sound insane because we went pretty long last week. This was actually supposed to be part of that episode, and then I think we got 2 hours in, and then realized we had this whole section left. So, um, I don't think any of us are going to even pretend we know anything about the draft or the prospects that are about to be drafted in 3 weeks, but we can kind of give you an idea of what the teams have done, and then we're going to look back at their previous results from the last 10 years. So, for those who are interested, this is the 2025 draft order. The White Sox have the 10th pick, I believe, because they didn't get above the spending threshold. Is that correct? Or else they should have had a much better pick than 10th. I think that was the highest they could get because they didn't spend X amount of money or whatever's in the CBA. The Twins pick 16th. Then we have Kansas City, Detroit 23 and 24, and then Cleveland goes to 27. The Royals did get a bonus pick. I didn't realize this was a thing, but the Royals get a bonus pick because Bobby Witt got top 3 in MVP vote, and because he was pre-arbitration, he was able to get it. And then the Twins get a compensation pick A, which basically means they're a small revenue team who doesn't like to spend money. So here's a bonus pick for you cheap bastards. The Tigers also get one too. I did kind of miss that. Yeah, so I did again, we're not going to go through through all of the prospects or like what kind of draft this is going to be, but I did look. So again, we're looking at the 20/80 grade scale. A 50 is average for a prospect that you could project to be a future major leaguer. I just did the laziest type of looking up numbers. I just looked at what their overall grade was and counted how many of them there were worth there. So there are 6 prospects in this draft that have a total 60 grade. 3 of those are pitchers. Hip hip hooray. None of our teams are going to get any of those. We don't care about them. 21 prospects have an overall grade of 55. Only 8 of those are pitchers. And then 74 prospects have a grade of 50. 28 of those are pitchers, a lot of them college pitchers. So I think it's a pretty middle of the road draft. I don't think it's like viewed as like a generational draft. It's a decent one. Somebody is going to pick a 50 overall grade. Don't know how the heck they're going to do it, but go look at the MLB Pipeline's top 250. Your player's on there somewhere. Good luck figuring it out. But what we do know is we can look back with the view of hindsight and see how the teams have done over the last decade. So I just went into StatHead and just did first round picks since 2014 and then other notable picks. And then I did that from 2014 to 2022. And it's a very self-selecting list. I just did anyone that had a positive WAR or I recognized their name on the roster fairly recently. So we'll start off with the Guardians, and this really reminds you that the draft is only one of 4 ways to pick players, and thank God for that, because this is not always an impressive list. So these are all of the first round picks for the Guardians since 2014. Anyone with a WAR with number in the grid on the right have made it to the majors, and woof.
Dan, not pretty.
How do you feel about those first round picks?
Not good at all. It is not. So here's the thing, and we'll potentially get into this. My perception is I did some research myself today was the Guardians have been willing to take big swings in the first round of the draft, which I think I'm doing a little bit of Captain Obvious here. Like that's your opportunity to get a franchise changing player through the draft is obviously in the first round, your first pick.
Yep.
They, I feel like, have embraced that, and they have come up empty a lot.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
I looked through this list. I mean, just start at the back. Anybody remember Brady Aiken and the story with him?
Yes, one of the bigger draft busts of the last century of the last 2000.
Houston. He refused to sign with Houston in 2014.
Yep.
Ended up going to an academy for a year. He was either injured or ineffective when the Guardians or the Indians at the time took him in the first round in 2015. Will Benson. Pretty good outfielder for the Reds now. Kind of looked like a quad A player for the Cleveland organization for his entire time here, and ended up taking off after he left. They didn't have a first round pick in 2017 because they signed Edwin Encarnacion, and that pick got taken away from them for that case. I believe Toronto probably got it. Bo Naylor, 2018. Yet to be seen, but I mean, we saw his numbers earlier. I think he would hope for better than a 75 OPS plus out of a first round pick.
Well, if you would have asked me before you said that Cleveland takes a lot of high school players, I don't know if I would have, because like they seem such a new school.
But that's the thing is, I think big swing in the first round. I think they're willing to really go for potential with a high school player in the first round.
They had next week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 first round picks were all high schoolers in a row, and then you had 7, 8, 9. Like, phew.
And it's changed more recently. Like, I'll get there. Like, Gavin Williams was a college pitcher. Chase DeLauder played at North Carolina.
Yeah.
Ralphie Velasquez, I believe, was I don't remember. Does it say on here?
High school.
High school. Okay, so he was a deviation there, but then Bazana was a college player as well. So more recently, they have been a little bit more careful in that regard. But just to kind of run this out, Daniel Espino was a top prospect for this team for years, and he's just never been able to stay healthy. I think he's still technically in the organization, rehabbing somewhere. 2020 is a crapshoot anyway.
Yeah, there's only 5 rounds. Yeah.
Carson Tucker and Tanner Burns, both first-round picks that year. Carson Tucker isn't in affiliated ball anymore.
Oh, really?
Tanner Burns has a 5 ERA as a reliever in Columbus, AAA Columbus this year. So not going to get much there. And then I get into, Gavin Williams. Hey, guy, finally we have somebody who's contributing on the Major League Ball Club, other than Bo Naylor, but like is a net positive. Gavin Williams.
Yep.
And then I've talked at length already about how Chase DeLauder may be on this roster in a matter of days, weeks, hopefully not months. Velasquez, we mentioned last week, as a top prospect. He's a power hitting first baseman. Again, a little bit of a deviation there, willing to take a big swing, so to speak. And then Bazana was their choice from a mixture of probably 4 or 5 guys that were at the top of the draft last year. But he's currently injured.
I still can't believe you guys got the first overall pick.
Yeah.
Got them lottery odds. That's all that is.
I don't like the lottery. I think it's dumb.
Oh, I like it. I also like it because it made owners you can't. Tanking is so bad in baseball. It's so bad. Like anything that goes against anti-tanking, I'll be in favor of. Not that this is going to clear up anything, but. If I remember, it wasn't Bazana. He was yes, there were 4 players in the conversation, but he was pretty much consensus the top guy.
I think he was I think that was partially. I think he was the most Cleveland oriented player. Really smart kid. Really cares about analytics a lot. Mm-hmm. It was a good fit, I think, in Cleveland with him, and so I think that's probably part of why that projection happened.
So then now, moving on, I only went up to 2022 with other notable picks. And again, they had to have any type of positive one WAR, or if I just recognize their name as being helpful. More success.
No, so this is the flip side of this. Not very good track record in the first round. They become significantly better in the later rounds. And I'm probably going to say some names that you have up on the board. I'm going to say a bunch of names that aren't too. Just guys that made the big leagues starting back in 2015. Tristan McKenzie, I mean, I get it. He's not working out right now, but a couple good years there. Nathan Lucas, who's an outfielder for Toronto now, was on that roster.
Yep.
2016, Nolan Jones, second round. Aaron Savali, starting pitcher. Now we ended up getting Kyle Manzardo for him. And then 4th round, 2016, Cy Young Award winner Shane Bieber, 4th round. The thing you'll notice here a lot, lots and lots and lots of college pitchers.
Yes.
2017, Second round, Tyler Freeman. So both ends of the Nolan Jones-Tyler Freeman trade there. Third round, Jonathan Rodriguez. Probably a quad A guy, should probably be playing in Japan right now, but made the big league roster. Ernie Clement, playing third base for Toronto these days. Fourth round. Eli Morgan, talked about him already tonight. Really good ERA last year in that really great bullpen. Eighth round. James Karinchak, ninth round. Now, the best draft in all of these is 2018. Bo, we've talked about, but fourth round, Nick Sandlin.
Yep.
Now pitching, I believe, also for Toronto, but was part of the bullpen last year. Stephen Kwan, fifth round. Going to be an all-star again. Tim Herron, remember that bullpen squad, 18th round of the University of Indiana, college pitcher. 33rd round, Daniel Schneemann, playing a perfectly adequate super utility role this year.
The 1,003rd pick.
Yes, sir.
I feel like the 33rd round pops up a lot as like this guy was a 33rd round.
It just happens to be the round. That's the magic round.
Zach McKinstry was a 33rd round pick, and he's one of the better position players right now. Like, I don't know. It just feels like maybe I'm just like noticing a pattern that doesn't exist, but it seems like.
But that 2018 draft is probably the most impactful on the current roster with those guys. 19, Hunter Gaddis, really good lockdown relief pitcher at this point. Hey, another college pitcher. Will Brennan, not going to contribute this year, but has been moderately successful as a big leaguer. Nick Enright, we've talked about him a little bit. Hopefully going to contribute some more. 20th round for him as well. I see you have Kevin Kelly and Matt Waldron on there as well. No longer with the organization, but were also drafted later on. 2020, while the first round was a complete and total disaster, Logan Allen was taken in the second round. He's had a better year out of the rotation this year. I'll also add to that, he's not a big leaguer yet, but Petey Halpin is an outfielder who's a defensive first outfielder. Probably projects as a fourth outfielder someday. He was taken in the third. 2021, really interesting draft because the Guardians had 21 picks in this draft, 21 in total. 19 of them were pitchers.
Oh, so you almost did what the Angels did.
Yeah.
All but one of those pitchers was a college pitcher.
Huh.
It took Gavin Williams in the first round. Doug Nikhazy has had a cup of coffee in the majors this year and should be part of their future plans. He was the second round pick. But the real get here, as you can see on the screen, is in the fifth round, Tanner Bybee. Yep. Getting him in the fifth round, huge coup in that case. Getting off of that, that's the end pretty much of the major leaguers. I just want to say a couple more names in the more recent drafts, both to the positive and to the negative. Justin Campbell, who I believe might have even been a first round pick. I might have skipped over this earlier in 2022. He hasn't pitched. He hasn't thrown a pro inning. So another big swing. He's a college pitcher, first round, but he's had elbow issues and has not thrown a baseball on a minor league mound. But there's a number, that 2023 draft, Velasquez, Andrew Walters, who I've talked about at length, who isn't going to contribute this year, but is hopefully a big part of their bullpen moving forward. CJ Kayfus and Cooper Engel, who is probably going to be the heir to the catcher role if Bo Naylor doesn't work out. Mm-hmm. Those five guys have the opportunity. That's the next kind of those guys plus Bazana plus DeLauder. That's the next hope, is those like 5 or 6 guys. Mm-hmm. To be seen, but that's what's next, I would say.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And I just didn't pick after 2022 because
they're not major leaguers yet. I wanted to say those names because and the one Alex Clemmy was traded. He was our second pick in 2023. He was part of the Lane Thomas deal, so he's already actually benefited the ball club in some form or fashion. To summarize,
pretty good.
This team's draft strength is college pitchers. That's what they want. That's what they get. And they're pretty good at developing them, I'd say. And then, like I said, DeLauder, Kafis, Engel, Bazana have a chance to right the ship on the position player side because it hasn't been great. But there's a crop there that could kind of. I believe that when we looked at the prospects last week, I think 9 of the 10 top prospects in the Guards organization were position players. Mm-hmm. So this is the opportunity to right the ship coming up here in the next year or so.
So this is completely unrelated, but you have a shadow in the back of your can. It looks like a dinosaur is about to attack you. And like I'm worried about, is there somebody breaking into your house?
No, it looks like a ghost or something.
Yeah, and it flashes once in a while. It's just like, ooh, I think, is this? Are we going to be part of a police report?
It's just a guy just standing there waiting for you to finish.
No.
That's right.
There is a window here, and there's a parking lot out here, so you probably see car lights flashing in and out.
Oh, fair enough. Either way. Yeah. Anyway, we'll move on to the. That was very. I mean, that was very random.
Oh, that's funny. That's cool.
Moving on to the Royals. Oof. So they've had some good picks. The easiest pick that they had 2019, Bobby Witt, 18 WAR so far, high school players. They've been pretty 50-50 on if it's going to be a college player or a high school player. Caglianone's already in the majors. What's that?
A lot of like alternate between high school, college, high school, college, high school, college.
I think what would be very frustrating if Sam was looking at this, 6th overall pick, 8th overall pick, 9th overall pick, 7th, 4th, 32, 2nd, and like they've been in the top 10 pretty much since 2019, except for coming this year, which I think that kind of tracks. We'll see what happens. I know Asa Lacey is a pretty promising pitcher for them, but Brady Singer, I still don't like. I'd have to ask Sam if he really would hit a reset on the Jonathan India trade, whether it's just he would still trade Singer and switch it to a different person, but overall he's been fine. Jackson Kowar, I think it was on this year's team, or sorry, he was just a first overall pick. That was about Bubich was an 18. They're really starting to see promises for there. Nick Prado, who I remember, but not, can't think of really of a profile for him right now, but I don't believe he's in the majors right now. And then just some misses, but they had a pretty good stretch here from 2017 to 2020 where they were just getting guys in the majors. But
the picks where they were in the back half of the first round are better so far than the picks where they are in the front half, which is really strange. Well, I don't think it's that strange. The draft is such a crapshoot, but still,
well, especially like you don't know, like did somebody drop so that like did a team take a below slot person so they could sign someone later, and the Royals take advantage of that and all that, that game of chess that they try to play. Looking at their notable picks from 2014 to 2022, Scott Blewett isn't with them. Ryan O'Hearn is fine. Josh Stallman had a couple good years with them. Nicky Lopez is still playing for them. MJ Melendez has been terrible. Kyle Isbell has been fine. Probably just like probably just a smack average starting center fielder. Massey's at least playing for them, and then Pasquantino, and then Noah Cannon. So it has been getting better.
No, sorry, Riley Green just got robbed of a home run. It was an amazing robbery, but he could have had 3 on the day. I mean, we're still losing, but we're down 5. We're down by 5 now. But wow,
they might lose a game to the Central. Or the Twins won. Did the Guardians? They haven't played yet, have they?
The Guardians are losing 5-3.
It's looking like it might have been just short of a home run, but damn, that was a good catch. Anyway, sorry.
The Tigers.
Yeah, it's not. A lot of it is not great. It's called Al Avila took over in 2015, and development was doo-doo since then. He was good at drafting. You can identify talent, and then they just go somewhere else and develop. Or they would never develop, and then, Derek Hill, he was exciting for, like, a little bit in 2020. Good defense. He's having a pretty good year right now with the Marlins. Like, I say pretty good, but it's, like, above what he's done before. Bo Burrows, his Tigers highlight is coming up for a game in 2021 puking on the mound, and then being sent down in DFA within the week.
I do remember that. That's right.
Yeah, you remember that? Yeah.
I do.
Matt Manning, he looked good for a little bit, but then just never really figured it out. His fastball is just he has like a 5 ERA in Toledo right now. He has not come up at all this year, and he was coming up a lot last year, which I think kind of signals how the organization is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Faedo, he was decent for a little while, but then just never really developed into anything. We traded him to Tampa this offseason, so he's probably going to win a Cy Young. I think he's injured right now. But then after that, it gets way more positive.
It does.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or at least more promising.
Yeah, we're way more promising. Casey Mize is having a career year, so he's might be finally turning it around after a rough start and injuries. Riley Green, 2-time All-Star, now starting in his first year. He's having an amazing year. Torkelson's finally figuring it out.
Looked like
Really
a bust before this year.
Yeah, I mean, if you asked me about this draft 5 months ago, lots of very different answers on here.
Yeah.
But yeah, Torkelson, I think you could say he's not totally a bust right now. I mean, we'll see how it if this continues on. But he's like bought himself more time.
Well, like,
very
he probably won't make the All-Star game this year, but like, I don't think
Could've.
he can be classified as a bust anymore. He's lived up to at least some of that potential and has been productive.
It's still a little bit of a question of if it's going to carry over to next year, because in 2023 he did this thing where he hit 31 home runs and then but yeah,
I think that would be. Weren't you more encouraged by that?
It was encouraging, but then he fell off so much in 2024. So there's still he could have this really great year, but then fall off.
I feel better that at least he had some success before in the majors before this year, or else I would be worried about the bottom falling out again. I'm more encouraged that he at least had like a decent year or a good year.
It wasn't a full year. It was like 2 months where he hit like 20 home runs in like 2 months. So
now I think we're getting into that philosophical question of if what is a bust, and at this point, I think Torkelson has been good long enough that that's not a bust.
He's been I think in the American League he like leads in home runs and OPS for first baseman. So he's been having a great year. He hit another home run today. Ty Madden, he's been injured, but he came up briefly last year and he was pretty decent. He can really still kind of unclear if he's going to be a starter or a reliever, but he can, because he was like started a bit, but then he was part of the pitching chaos last year, and he's injured this year, so not really sure. Jackson Jobe, Tommy John, but he looks good.
Yep.
So is that
not to get back to like who's a bust and like as far as picking talent that can get to the majors, that's kind of what that's the bar as far for a first round pick. They've done that pretty much every year since 2000, like except for 2023, and that's because he hasn't been in the minors that long. Like is it the best group of players you'll ever see? Sure isn't, but they got to the majors, so they scouted something, right? I mean, it helps it does help you have the 3rd overall pick, the 1st overall pick, the 5th, the 1st, the 9th. Like, yes, you should.
Yeah, that stretch of 1st, 3rd, 5th.
Yep.
It's a bit rough, but yeah. And then if you'll notice, this list is a lot shorter than all the other teams. That's because there's a lot of guys that we traded away or they left for other teams or never amounted to anything because their development was garbage. I have a very large bone to pick with Al Avila. But there's a lot of pretty good, interesting players on here. Turnbull he threw no hitter. That was cool. Yeah. He's probably using sticky stuff, but whatever. Let's talk about the more interesting ones. Let's see. Tarek Skubal, obviously, 9th round draft pick.
Yep.
The reason 8 other teams passed the reason 8 other rounds got past him is because he had Tommy John in college, but also he went to Seattle, so Northwestern area doesn't really get scouted out as much. Kerry Carpenter, a 19th round draft pick. It's pretty nice. Bo Brisky, he hasn't had a good year, but he had a really good last year.
Yeah.
The 27th round pick. Will Vest. There's a lot of guys on here, but most of the guys that are on the team now are guys that we traded for when they were prospects. So it's a little bit, because there's a lot of guys we traded for, but we were selling for 8 years straight, and we got prospects, and then some of them worked out. Tyler Alexander is probably one of the better players on here that's not on the Tigers right now, and Drew Smith. Drew Smith having a pretty good year with the Mets right now. Tyler Alexander was good for us for a little while. Like, he's had kind of up and down since then, but he's been decent.
I mean, I would say, like, is this, again, it's like, is it the best group of players you'll ever see? No, but, like, these have been perfectly fine, productive players. And, like, yes, the bar for you getting on this is just a positive 1. But, I don't know, Meadows is still young. Scooble's great. Carpenter's great. Like, Dingler's just getting started. Keith is still getting started. Herter's still getting started. Like,
yeah, I mean,
they look a lot better.
Very exciting. We've got 3 players on the futures game. McGonigal, Clark, and Briseño are all going to be on the futures game. Yeah, it's a very exciting time right now because there's a lot of young guys on the major league roster, but then a lot of prospects coming up that have very high ceilings. So very, very exciting. People are thrilled. Riley Green is one of the best players we've drafted in a very long time. In terms of, like, it's been like 70 years since we had a guy this young, this good. That type of thing.
My perception of kind of looking at that non-first round group was, I know, Lee, you said it was kind of not as lengthy as some of the other ones, but the individuals that were on there have been, I think, more impactful.
Yes.
In a lot of cases. You got a lot of people who are making a significant contribution to your roster right now.
Yes.
In a way that, I could probably name more Guardians that have appeared in the majors, but they aren't necessarily playing to the same caliber.
Yeah.
I think that's this is making me think a little bit, tiny bit better about our development over the past years. We've had some good players coming up.
When was he fired?
He was fired midway through 22.
I mean, there's no reason to say, like, these players wouldn't, if they would have continued with him, that it still could have been a draft and development issue under Avila, and then they got a more modern or just a better guys brought in to develop.
Yeah, I think it's not a coincidence that several of our players who are good now started breaking out after he left.
Yeah.
Scooble, Mize, Torque.
Well, I remember Trevor Plouffe, who played for the Twins for a while, John Boy, all that. Everyone, I think, knows who that is. But he did an interview a couple years ago where he said, like, I had to stop listening to the minor league coaches and I had to take my career into my own hands because, like, they were telling him to hit the opposite way, not to grunt, like, and then he decided, you know what, I'm just going to knock the shit out of the ball. And that's how he got to the majors and had a decent career. So Al Avila and I think Terry Ryan are probably kindred spirits. The former Twins GM, I wouldn't be surprised if some of these prospects were like, screw it, I'm going to do what's best for me.
Like, Scooble had to, like, send his, like, tape to outside coaches and stuff during the off season to get, like, good advice when he was in the minor leagues. It's, and I gotta give a good amount of credit to AJ Hinch because when he came in, because he was, cheating scandal, Astros, blah, blah, blah. We can get all that out there. But that's still a winning organization. And he brought a lot of those ideas to the Tigers and hey, this is the kind of thing you need to do to build a winning organization. And, like, a lot of the fan base was like, because he said, like, oh, we're going to be a winning organization. We're going to win, et cetera, et cetera. It just took a really long time. And so the fan base is, like, finally seeing it because we're finally winning. Mm-hmm. But, like, I'm looking back at quotes from, like, 21, 22 that we looked at that time is like, yeah, of course he's going to say that. But now it's like, yeah, he was right. It just took a long time for it to actually get there.
Yeah. I'll move on to the Twins. Pretty hit or miss. Like, a lot of these names are fine. Nick Gordon had a good couple of years with the Twins. He had a pretty decent, like, 2022. Looked like he was going to break out. Got traded to the Marlins and fell off the cliff. Tyler J this is back when the Twins thought that throwing 92 was high velocity. And then somebody said, no, that's really bad. So then they just started drafting a bunch of like, if you could throw 95, the Twins were going to draft you. So Tyler J was that. He actually left the organization. I think played either independent or retired. And then I think he came back. I don't remember his team, but he made his debut, I think like last year or 2 years ago. The saddest name on this list is Alex Kirilloff. He looked so good when he was healthy, and then he screwed up his wrist, and then he had to retire because of a back injury this last year. He is now running a real estate agency in Florida, which really bums me out because he looked so good when he was healthy, and you only got to see it for like 6 weeks at a time, and then nothing. It sucks. So that name could have been a lot better. Another name that makes me very sad is Brent Rooker, because he did debut with the Twins. He was in the COVID season, and I think like 10 at-bats into his Twins career, he got hit in the forearm and broke his forearm. If that sounds familiar, that's because that exact same thing happened this year to Luke Keeschel. And then the Twins traded him it was with Taylor Rogers to the Padres, where they got Chris Paddock and basically nothing. What's his name? Emilio Pagan back. That was a disaster for everyone involved, including the Padres, who got the best player in Brent Rooker, but then cut him. He then signed with the Royals, who cut him, who then signed with the Athletics, who then paid him $50 million and has been really good.
I can't believe out of all of the organization, the A's were the ones that kept him and paid him.
Yep. Well, he was an old rookie. I think he's 30 now. He was always a bat first, horrible defense. Like,
he feels like a guy that has simultaneously been around longer than you think, but also not been around as long as you might think. If that makes sense.
2020, he made his debut, so that is true. That was 5 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it is a while ago, but I guess he hasn't played as much. Yeah. So it like balances it.
I think it was 2022 or 2023 is when he actually broke out. Then you have the run of Royce Lewis, who, again, the jury's still out. Looked like he was going to be an all-star caliber player. Has not played like it in the last 100 games. Trevor Larnach, perfectly fine. No issues. Matt Wallner, pretty good. No issues. Keone Cavaco was bad from the start. I think they drafted him. They brought him to like rookie ball, and I think he slugged like 200 in a substantial amount, and that's rookie ball. That didn't work out at all. Only slightly better, but still not looking good, is Aaron Sabato, who was in the Torkelson, Pasquantino, who's the other, Andrew Vaughn mix. Played for UNC, was a monster. And then I think people were curious if he could hit a breaking ball. Turns out no. He's still in AAA, but he just got there this year. He was drafted in 2020. I think he's like a 27, 28-year-old AAA guy, which is probably just slightly older than average for that league, so that's not great. If he makes it to the majors...
So weird.
What's that?
The 2020 draft as a whole, like if you look at the first round and it's like the top 10 players are like never made the majors, negative WAR, never made the majors.
Well, it helps. There's only 5 rounds too. So like most of that draft was going to get signed out of independent league anyway. But yeah, Sabato was not a great pick. Then they drafted Noah Miller the next year. He got traded for Manuel Margot. Yeah, we know how that went. Chase Petty, this is an interesting name. Never played for the Twins. He was drafted by them, then got traded to the Reds for Sonny Gray. And then the Twins were able to get Sonny Gray to reject the qualifying offer, which then turned into Kyle DeBarge. Twins got a playoff caliber starter for 2 years. Chase Petty he just made his debut, I think, last year. He's looked decent, fine, but it's looking like a pretty good trade for the Twins. It just depends on what Kyle DeBarge does, and he was drafted last year. Then Brooks Lee's in the majors now. Probably a starting caliber, second base, third base for the next couple of years. Charlie Soto has a live arm, high school pitcher. Still don't know what he's going to do. I think he throws like 98, but I think he's in high A still. Then Walker Jenkins, DeBarge, and then Culpepper's been pretty good. pretty good results. I don't know. Definitely some misses, but not the worst group of players you've ever seen.
That 2017-2019 mix right there.
This is a good stretch.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as like identifying players to get to the majors, they did well. How they're performing in the majors or not for your organization can also be a strike against you. Other notable picks. Lamont Wade has been, he's been people freak out over him more than I think it's justified. He was traded for a no-name reliever. He was a 5'10" first baseman that was heavy on base percentage. Fine. Jose Miranda made it to the majors. Akil Baddoo was great. I mean, I didn't realize he almost had a 3 WAR, but I think that was all in a 2-month stretch.
Hey, right now he's still like 7th in left fielders for outs above average in 2025. He had like a week. Like,
yeah,
it's so weird because he had like 2 games where he was really good. It's so funny.
Griffin Jacks has been a great reliever, and then again, Brent Rook. I don't know why I put him on there twice. Bailey Ober was in that same draft. He's looked great. Ryan Jeffers has been good. Deshaun Kersey's probably a 4th or 5th outfielder type. Cole Sands has been pretty decent in the bullpen. Cody Thunderberg has made the majors. He's a 2nd, 3rd lefty option for an organization. Then Spencer Steer was traded for Tyler Mahle. Hasn't done much. Varland looks good in the bullpen, and then Julian. Then there's a couple. David Festa, Zebby Matthews. Jury is still very much out on those two, but it's looked fine.
I just want to say real quick, Juan Miranda being a high school shortstop.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. Like, there's a different level of athleticism at the high school level. It's, significantly lower, but that guy as a shortstop is just funny to me at any level.
Miguel Sano was signed as a shortstop out of the Dominican.
That's wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most of these are all college players, which is interesting.
They do a lot of college, like, they've definitely, if for the first round, they're going for a college bat, 4-year player, 4-year. If they get a chance for a high upside play, like top 5, like draft pick with Jenkins, they did it. And then with Lewis, they did it with Cavaco. But even what was weird about the Cavaco pick, it wasn't even great in the moment. And I know with like the draft, there's always like a couple of those picks like, ooh, I don't think that was justified, but everyone universally crapped on it when it happened. And then when he couldn't even get out of single A, it was really bad, really quick. It looked very, I don't even want to look at the other players that were drafted in 2019 because I'm going to be a little angry.
I'm kind of curious now. I'm going to take a look and see.
Well, keep it to yourself. So, but I mean, they got a couple decent players to get to the majors at least a year. It's just how good they've been. This is where the list gets really sad. So here's the White Sox. And I know I've done my fair share of picking on the White Sox, but holy cheese and rice.
Eric, before we move off this, you really don't want to look 3 picks down from where Kaloni Cavaco was picked.
Great. Who was it? Tell me. Make me sad.
Corbin Carroll.
Great. So happy for that.
Just a little sample of what could have been. I'll stop there, unless Lee has any.
You know what would be really, really insulting is Cavaco was cut by the Twins last year, and he signed on with the Astros as a pitching prospect now. Like he switched over to. So if he like makes it to the majors and is like a lights out pitcher, I'm going to be like double salty about that pick. What were you going to say, Lee?
No, I'll look at this later.
Yeah, I'm already sad. Let's make fun of the White Sox, shall we? That makes me more joy than. I mean, they've had some misses. The last couple of years, it looks like they're going to trend out of it, but they had Garrett Crochet in the 20th, a couple picks before. Actually, that wasn't Cavaco. Andrew Vaughn has been a big miss, no longer with the organization. Madrigal was traded to the Cubs, I believe. I can't remember who they got back, though. Berger was great, but that was good, but then got traded to the Marlins. Collins, Birdie, Fulmer have not been great. So their real last impact, they've had 2 like impact pitchers in the last 10 years, both Crochet and Rodon. Rodon had a lot of injury issues with them, but that's still had a pretty good career. I think he's going to make $200 million as a starter.
Now remind me, but I don't think either of those guys play for the White Sox anymore. How curious.
Sure don't. The Crochet thing, like they got a load for Crochet.
Oh
so
yeah, they got a great haul for him. I think that was a great deal for
Rodon. I think just walked. I don't remember. I'd have to look at the 2015. Maybe we'll pop up on their second pick, but yeah. Other notable. This is what made me very sad for the White Sox. These are the notable players for the White Sox since 2014 outside the first round pick.
Remember in 2020, 2021, where everyone was like, oh, the White Sox have such a good young core.
Yes. And
Good
they've
times.
had, you'll notice, no one from 2015, no one from 2017, no one from 2019, no one from 20. I mean, this is just, again, outside the first round pick. So they do have, obviously, they have Vaughn made it to the majors and Crochet made it to the majors.
Oh, yeah, those are real. Vaughn turned out great for them.
Yeah. And maybe I'm being too mean. Like Jonathan Cannon looks like he's been good. Elko's made the majors, and then I think Baldwin just came up fairly recently for them also. Sean Burke looked like he's going to be a nice piece. This is incredibly sad for a decade of non-first round pick results.
Yeah.
Anything from before the pandemic, forget it.
Yeah.
I recognize 2, 3 of those players. Yeah. It's not great.
No, I mean, life as a White Sox fan, I guess. I don't. Again, I want them to be good so that I can make fun of them again and hate them again. But it's
no fun if they're always bad.
I would say especially when they're like pathetically bad.
Because then you're just being a bully and shoving them in the locker again.
Which is fine for them. They just. But any other thoughts on the draft?
No,
Probably not.
Not really. I do hope the Tigers get a pitcher first round. I want to say, because our pitching depth is a little top heavy right now. We don't have a lot at the bottom, but I mean, draft is like I pay attention to see. Oh, I wonder who the name is in the first round, and then I'll remember them, but I'm not. I think it's pointless to argue. Oh, we should have gotten so and so. We should have gotten so and so. Like at the moment, it's dumb.
Well,
like you don't know.
I feel like it really helped me, like kind of like to help compartmentalize prospects better. Because somebody said, don't view the draft as the draft capital. You view the prospects in the farm system as the draft picks. So you have your top 10 prospects. You should be viewing those as your trade chips and your actual draft picks, if that makes any sense. The draft is just getting talent into the system. So just bring in as good of talent as you can, regardless of the position. And then you just kind of filter it out from there. But I don't know if anyone had any other thoughts on that.
I have 2 thoughts. One, I have no confidence in the Guardians' ability to pick a first-round pick, having done this exercise. Everything after that, I feel pretty good about. But first round, I'm actually a little bit more concerned about Travis Bazzana's future now after doing this exercise. I say that somewhat in jest, but not entirely. And I'm going to I pulled up a lovely mock draft on MLB.com just for the heck of it. I think I'm going to make a prediction. The Guardians are going to draft second baseman / outfielder Sean Gamble from the IMG Academy in Bradenton, Florida, high school. Second baseman / outfielder fits the profile of the athletic middle of the field type guy they would take. And I know in the first round they're not afraid to take a high schooler. So that's my 10 minutes of research. Sure. Just taking a stab at it. Guess Sean Gamble. You heard it here first.
Well, what a gamble for you to say that.
Indeed.
I decided to do nothing because I think because I think mock drafts are pointless.
Especially in baseball.
In baseball. I think they're stupid in football. I think they're even more pointless in baseball. In football, you can do like maybe the first 3, and then from there it's like a giant crap shot because you have no fucking idea what they're gonna do.
I will predict that the Twins take a college bat because that's just their type in the first round. And after that, they're going to take a bunch of pitchers from colleges you've never heard of that probably throw 91, 92 and see what they can throw them in the blender and see if they can add some velocity.
I'm going to predict, if we're doing this, I'm going to say a college pitcher because why not?
Yeah.
Scott Harris hasn't done one of those in the first round. But I think he might be looking for a more MLB ready player since our window to win is now.
We'll move on to the schedule then. We did add a couple more just because the All-Star break is kind of looming. They've obviously just announced, so we'll just go through these. The Tigers are now winning against the Nationals, losing against the Nationals.
We allowed 6 runs in the 8th. That was really fun.
Oh, well, that's not great. But the good news is for the Tigers, they go play the Guardians next. Bet they're excited about that. And then Tampa Bay, who is, I believe, leading the AL East. And then they finish before the break with the Mariners and then come back with the Rangers. The Guardians playing the Cubs right now. You said they're still down?
I believe they're showing the scoreboard isn't up right now. I believe they're still losing 5-3.
Yeah. So they're playing the Cubs now, and then Detroit play Houston, play at the White Sox for a 4-game series just before the All-Star break, and then come back with the Athletics. That's a pretty good stretch. That's come get healthy, come get a healthy record, just survive the Tigers. The Astros, I don't think have looked especially. Maybe they're still.
The Astros have been really good lately.
Have they been?
Yeah, they're now second best record in the American League.
They did what they did last year, where they looked kind of lousy at the start of the year, but actually, we're actually really good again.
We're still the Astros.
Yeah.
The Twins playing the Marlins now. They looks like they beat the Marlins 2-1, which means in 2 games they have scored 2 runs. They play them tomorrow at 10 Central. Then they go to Tampa Bay, Chicago Cubs, the Pirates, and then come back with the Rockies, which it's a good time to play the Rockies just before the trade deadline. The Royals playing Seattle, going to the Diamondbacks, playing the Pirates, playing the Mets, which I mean, you could. It's versus the Mets, not at the Mets. Shoot, I can't go to that game. Then they go the All-Star comeback against the Marlins and the White Sox playing the Dodgers now. I think we can all predict what's going to happen there. Then I'm actually kind of excited for the White Sox Rockies July 4th weekend game. Come back with the Blue Jays, play the Guardians after that for 4 games, go into the All-Star break, and then come back to the Pirates. That is basically the rest of the month. Seeing an opportunity for Cleveland to get back to 500, and I'm seeing the Twins hopefully just don't, completely crap the bed. Predictions. We just have one game, one series to predict. It is Cleveland. It is, Detroit at Cleveland. Lee.
I'm probably work out this later. I'm going to say Tigers. Just because Cleveland has been playing horrendously lately.
Yeah. I'm going to skip Sam and Oren. Dan.
If the Guardians aren't already buried, they'll be buried after that series.
You get to face Skubal again. I think he's going to be playing game 2.
I'm not usually this much of a pessimist, everybody, but I think that's probably a sweep in the Tigers' favor.
Ooh.
I mean, there's no reason to doubt. I mean, they're clearly the best team. They're going to have a bad stretch, but it's not, if they're still up 10 games in August, it's not going to matter.
No. And just the way the Guardians are just reeling right now, just maybe it's my headspace, but nah, that's a series loss.
I'm not ready to call it because I don't want to jinx anything, but it's hard to see one of these other teams coming up again and taking over the lead at this point.
No. It would take, because even if the Tigers want to go on a 20-game losing streak, there's no guarantee that the other teams are going to play just as bad right now. I can't remember the last time the Twins have been 5-5 in their last 10. It's been 3-7, 2-8, and a lot of obviously just losing. Cleveland's trending the wrong. Detroit is going to have. I mean, the Twins had a historically bad collapse, but worse than that. And one of the Central teams will have to somehow win.
And honestly, I'm really not concerned about that because since AJ Hinch has been manager, we've improved after the All-Star break. Like you could say, oh, it was because they sold and they got young guys, or oh, because whatever, and maybe that'd be different in a winning season. But like every single year, like the joke has been for the past few years, like the Tigers with nothing to play for is the best team in the league because they're really good at the end of the season when it doesn't matter, which is what part of why at the last year was so, because like they started playing really well in August and we're like, great, of course they pick now to play really well when it doesn't matter anymore.
And then it mattered.
And then it ended up mattering, but like the past few years they were so out of it anyway, and they didn't have a team above them to collapse in order to make a run like that. But like every year they get better in like August, September.
After really August 1st,
fall off.
After August 1st, the only thing they should be thinking about is who their starting rotation is in the playoffs. Who are your three guys? And then who are you converting to the bullpen?
Pretty much.
It honestly doesn't matter. Make your lineup, pull it out of a hat. It doesn't matter. Do what you need to. If a team comes within 5 games of you, okay, then maybe start playing well again. But
I would like to secure that first round bye.
Sure.
Like make sure to get that.
I'll say this, past Guardians teams that have had that scenario. I'm thinking of the 2017 team in particular. Some of those late kind of 2018 as well. Not having another team to push them into the division, I think, was a detriment to them. I think, I think it helps to stay sharp, and I think that, like I said, I think that can be a real detriment to any team to not have to the need to have to stay ready every day in August and September.
Yeah, maybe this is my I don't know, optimistic thinking. I don't think Hinch is going to let this team fall into complacency or anything like that. I think he's going to make sure to keep them on.
Additionally, I think this is going to sound silly, but winning is still new enough. It's still enough of a novelty for that clubhouse, maybe, that that those 17-18 Indians teams, they've been to the World Series already. Like there's a little bit more of a sentiment of, oh, well, we can just roll the bats out there in October and be fine. And I don't think Detroit will be of that same mindset just because you guys haven't done it that much yet.
My dad likes to say that, especially end of last year, they're too young and dumb to know what they were doing.
How important it is.
Well said.
Yeah, they're too young and they're too stupid to know that this is actually huge. And I mean, honestly, I've been thinking about this, and like I kind of wonder, okay, they go on a stretch at the end of last season. What if they don't make the playoffs? What if they don't win the wild card series? What if they don't go to 5 games? Do they get off to the start that they did this season? Because they started winning and they didn't stop winning. Like
if the Twins don't epically collapse and the Twins take that spot, and Detroit plays exactly the same,
but they don't make the playoffs.
But they don't make the playoffs.
How does that change how they started off this year? Because last year they got a taste of winning, they got a taste of October, and like Hinch always says, once you play in one October, you never want to miss another one. Mm-hmm. How much of that affected this year? I think that's really interesting to kind of think about.
Does anyone kind of think like the Tigers they tried spending money on Bregman and I think Santander for a while. So like they definitely made an effort to give someone $30 million this last year. I almost think if the Twins would have made the playoffs and the Tigers played, they would have been more incentivized to like bring in someone else, because then they were just on the outside rather than just making it. And like, well, we weren't over the edge, so now we need to bring someone in to bring us in over the edge. But maybe
do they offer Bregman the extra $5 million a year or whatever it was, or because last season they won a playoff series with this team, they didn't pay extra money for Bregman. It's kind of a butterfly effect.
Alternatively, I kind of wonder if you don't make the playoffs, you're more willing to write off Oh, that was just a good 2 months. We still have work to do with this core to develop it.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's very interesting to kind of think about how much those 2 months changed and affected what they're doing right now.
I did just want to show up because I'm just showing a more fuller picture of the wild card, or the playoff ads. The Tigers right now have the best percentage chance to win the World Series in the American League. They are better than the Yankees.
That's
I'm going to
insane.
guess they're not better than the Dodgers. Actually, they are better than the Dodgers. So right now, you
No,
can
they're
take
not.
it
That's
to the
15
bank.
points. Wait, they're
Win
below
World
him by
Series.
0.9.
14.5. The Dodgers 15.4.
Yeah.
Shoot. Okay. Dang it. Dyslexia. Damn it. Now again, even like to win the World Series, it's a 15% chance. This is by no means a shoe-in, but I just thought that was kind of interesting. They're a 30% chance to win the pennant. That's exciting.
I wonder. I just have to look at Fangraphs how much that has changed at the start of the year because I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Fangraphs had them at under 500 to start, and then yeah.
I'm sure there's a way to search that on Baseball Reference.
Yeah.
But anyway, we've talked a lot. We should probably get them. We'll talk about the playoff odds and how the Tigers are going to be coasting into the playoffs later. But
not put any jinxes on it. No jinxes.
Oh no! Like just start hanging the banners. Like start making it. Already like scheduled a parade. I don't see why you wouldn't do that.
I just want to reemphasize real quick that the Tigers had the highest likelihood in the entire American League of winning the World Series.
Yeah.
I just want to reemphasize that one more time. They have a really, really good chance of doing that.
The best team in baseball, I think.
The Guardians have a really good chance to finish under 500 this season, which
they sure do, and I'm doing my best to make peace with that right now. So thank you for that, Lee.
You're welcome. I'm glad I can help.
You could just say that against any Central team right now.
Just
pick any other team.
Before the season started, I predicted the Guardians would end up 4th. I was just being a hater, but maybe that could come true.
And you know what? I had the Detroit at 4th because I thought I needed to see it for more than 2 months. Well, I've seen it for more than 2 months now.
Yeah, really.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good.
But
that's all right.
We'll leave it with that.
That's all right, Lane. We'll always have your grand slam.
That's right. It's all about those moments. So.
You got that moment, and then lots of black.
And they got shut out on the Roku channel.
Yeah, and I went back and watched the because Apple TV saves, like you can go and watch. I watched the J.K. Simmons when he was in the booth. I thought it was very funny. The J.K. Simmons, he went and threw out the first pitch at Cleveland. Underneath that, he was wearing a Tigers shirt, and when he's in the booth, they were talking about the Tigers a lot. And meanwhile, Cleveland is falling apart defensively on the field.
And by the way, the Tigers weren't even playing in this game.
I mean, I feel kind of bad you're a team that is a division rival that's not even playing is being talked about while the Guardians are on the team, are the team playing. I feel kind of bad about that because that's kind of not great from the Apple broadcast perspective, but it's also very funny to have J.K. Simmons in the booth talking about the Tigers and the Guardians have like 3 errors in the inning.
I don't believe you feel that bad. You seem very happy talking about this. So
I'm not even that mad about it. I mean, that was a meltdown of an inning, but I've seen plenty of those this year. And honestly, I appreciated J.K. Simmons' knowledge of the game. He actually kind of impressed me. It was for a team that wasn't on the field for some reason, but
it can't be more embarrassing.
From one ball nowhere to another.
It can't be more embarrassing than launching your own TV channel and then having the rival division team as literally the opening seconds for Twins TV was showing the Cleveland Guardians and Bob Costas talking about it.
Amazing.
Oh, if there was an omen, man, that was it. But all right, let's shut up now. We'll see everyone next week.
Thanks, everybody.